Good morning. This week I went back to the shooting range. How did I do? Oh, I'm glad you asked. Let's look at some groups, shall we? I know this is a Sunday antisocial, which is normally the time each week when I smoke my pipe and complain about humanity while answering all of its questions. But look at this. Look at this. 3/8 of an inch. A 3-shot group covered by a dime. Look at that. Look at that. Don't pay attention to these other groups. Just this one. 50 yards with CCI Mini Mag. 50 yards! And this is 50 yards with Auto Match, Federal Auto Match, which is a bulk ammo and actually shot pretty well. I was kind of happy with it. Squirrel head targets, squirrel head size targets at 25 yards. I only missed one on the whole page, and that was like before I even got wormed up. That was before I got worms. I am smoking HH Old Dark Fired Ready Rub from June 2016 in my Dagner Cobb, and I'm wearing my flashy blinky runner hat. I don't know why anyone would ever buy a hat like this. It was given to me. But now that I have it, I think it's pretty cool. How long can I go in this video before this makes you click away? That's my question. How can I alienate my viewers today? I've probably already left by now. Okay, we'll turn it off because what I'm getting ready to say now is definitely going to alienate at least half my viewers. This week, the topic of the Sunday Antisocial is apparently going to be guns and politics, which is exactly what I said I didn't want to talk about ever again. And then I got into target shooting. Because I went to go mess around with my squirrel rifles for squirrel season, right? I just innocently went to the range to put one scope on another rifle. That's all I did. And then, since I was comparing two rifles, I started getting obsessed about group size. If you don't know what group size is, it's the only thing on the internet about which men argue over who has the smaller one. It's crazy. Anyway, I'm down the rabbit hole. On target shooting, and so now I can talk about guns and, by extension, politics. But a bunch of other stuff happened this week, too. I hung out with none other than YouTube royalty Scott at Aristocob. Here's a photo to prove it. And then I was imitated. He wasn't trying to pass off as me. So I guess imitated, I was copied. I was mocked. I was humiliated by Over a Pipe, who did an impersonation. An imitation. Whatever. He pretended to be me. He had the hat and everything. He seems to think that my videos, my presentation style is a little bombastic and doesn't see the reasonable qualities that I bring to the table in my delivery. So let's just do it this week. Here we go. I'm going to be super extra reasonable about this, Martin, right? Okay. This is the time each week when I answer questions from humanity. So if you're a piece of humanity with an itching, burning, infected, swollen question with warts all over it, leave it in the comments down below. And here's how this is going to work. If you are a lady, you get moved to the front of the line. And if you are a typing piper and you send me a bunch of spam, you get moved to the front of the line. Is that reasonable enough, Martin? Was that deadpan enough for you? I didn't do any. There was no in and out. There was no waving of arms. Anyway. Typing piper, I think asked about 75% of our questions this week, and for some reason this one was marked as spam, even though the others were definitely more spammy. And so we'll get right to it. Ask GROOPZ, which is the hashtag you should use if you want to ask me a question. Ask GROOPZ, if you need a $1,200 rifle to kill a squirrel, you are doing something wrong. What is a good price for a squirrel gun? Well, typing piper, my squirrel gun cost me under $200. That is my Marlin 981T, and I have looked up the modern version of that because I bought that gun about 10 years ago, I think. And I've looked up the modern version, which is the Marlin XT22 TR, and it looks like a very fine gun as well. It has an upgraded trigger from mine. Mine's better. Anyway, but the thing is that Marlin was bought by Remington, was bought by Freedom Corp, and Freedom Corp doesn't care about freedom, and they hate guns, apparently. So they, for the last several years, I don't really know the ins and outs on this, stuff in the gun industry. Their quality control has been less than spectacular. I'm told that the end user is the quality control. So you need to handle several weapons before you choose one from Marlin these days, or Remington for that matter. And so I don't know that I would recommend that you buy that gun, but you can get a good squirrel gun for $200, I think. You can always get a Ruger 1022, and Lord knows the quality control is tip top on those. Here's what has happened, right? Okay, so I started comparing these two rifles, my 1022 and my 981T, and I've come to one conclusion or another so many times over the past 2 weeks that I have no idea. I think now I have decided to keep both rifles and do some upgrades to the 1022. I think that is the most cost-effective option for having. I wanted to get down to one 22 rifle because I have 3 and I have 5 arms in my house that are chambered in 22 long rifle. It's a little much. So I was like, okay, I need to get down to one gun. I can't, or 2, because I can't get rid of my heirloom guns. So I decided I would put the scope on the 1022 and get rid of the Marlin. And then when I took it to the range, it was so much more fun to shoot the Marlin. And so then I thought, well, maybe I'll get rid of the 1022. But then I definitely have to have a good working semi-automatic 1020 or 22 rifle. So then I thought maybe I'll sell the 1022 and I'll buy the Thompson Center TCR 22, which is an upgraded 1022. You see where this is going? So as part of all that, I went back to the range. To swap the scope again because I was like, okay, if I'm going to actually sell one of these guns, I love them both. If I'm going to sell one of these guns, I really need to be sure about which one is the better shooter. So I went back to the range, took some shots with the 22, opened it up because the trigger wasn't consistently resetting after I broke it down and cleaned it last time. I believe the issue that causes this is I juxtaposed, I switched, I transposed the sear disconnector spring and the trigger plunger spring, which look exactly the same but have different tensions. So I did that, trigger wouldn't reset, so I broke it all down, switched the triggers, tried to put it back together, and the sear disconnector spring went boing. Not that I should have known better. It's that I did know better, and I did it anyway. You never break down a gun at the bench on the range. That's just stupid. But I did. And then I had to pay like $12 shipping for a 25-cent part. So because I couldn't shoot the 1022, obviously, I put the scope back on the Marlin, played around with it, and I'm never gonna get rid of that gun, man. Sub MOA groups at 50 yards. Okay, one sub MOA group at 50 yards. Good news for y'all is that I'm gonna keep this squirrel gun and I'm just gonna take it squirrel hunting. Like I've done every year for the last however many years. I don't know why this year was the year I decided to get all persnickety about this stuff. But the good news for y'all is now I have a new hobby of target shooting, which just perfect. It's just what I need. It's one more expensive hobby. Anyway, it's pretty fun trying to get tight groups, and I'm terrible at it. But I did get a little bit of confirmation there, just a little bit that I could do it. So I'm interested. Now, Typing Piper asks his second question: when do you think it will be legal to hunt squirrels with drones? That's not legal. There goes all of my content for the fall. I guess I'll just have to scrub those videos. Typing Piper again asks, what is your current squirrel score? At the moment, I'm 1 for the season. I am 0 for the season because the season hasn't opened yet in North Carolina. I don't know how it is where you are, but I like to shoot legally. Typing Piper asks GROOPZ, oh God, is Dollywood coming to town? Have you ever been to Dollywood, you Michigander weirdo? It's something else, man. It is. I am not a fan of amusement parks, and I'm definitely not a fan of Dollywood. Though I am a fan of Dolly Parton. I think she's a really interesting person. But just it's redneck Mecca. That's for damn sure. Typing Piper asks GROOPZ. I just offended a lot of people, didn't I? Typing Piper asks GROOPZ, do you use squirrel tail for making flies? No, I do not. I have some squirrel tails that I shot and saved. I mean, I didn't shoot the tail. Shot him in the head and I chopped him off the squirrel just to make sure we're all on the same page. But the thing is, squirrel tails are good for streamers, but they're really hard to work with because squirrel fur is slippery. It's very slippery. It's crazy how slippery it is. And so I'm curious this year if I skin an entire squirrel, can I use it like rabbit fur for dubbing on my flies? And that brings us to the next question from Paul Palmer. Paul Palmer. Ever go rabbit hunting? No. And here's why. Brad is my hunting guide. And Brad doesn't hunt rabbits because he says they smell bad. I have never smelled a rabbit, but I will trust Brad. And he says that it's fun to shoot them, but not fun to clean them. And they taste good when you eat them, but not fun to get to the eating stage. So I don't know. We'll see. I would like to kill my own rabbits for dubbing for my flies. But if you really want to do that, you have to preserve the rabbit's face. And I'm not sure I want to pull the face off a rabbit. You know what I mean? Like I get that the rabbit's dead, right? And I get that I'm not using it for a nefarious purpose, but it's just a little too Leatherface for me. Leatherface, Martin. Leatherface. You see how wholesome this channel is? Pick of squirrels. Howard says, doesn't Rocky have enough on his plate? What with Boris and Natasha? E2 GROOPZ. No, Rocky is a flying squirrel. I don't hunt flying squirrels because they are the most adorable creatures ever, and that's illegal. I grew up with flying squirrels as basically members of my family. Grew up in a log cabin. It was very tall. It's way up in the woods. It's on the side of a mountain. So you'd be like sitting there at night, right? And a squirrel would come at night and start eating like the bird seed out of the bird feeder. And you'd look over at it and then it would just jump off the deck. And you'd think, I've never seen a suicidal squirrel before. But then it would open its little foreskin flaps or whatever you call them and just fly out into the woods. We named them, there were like a dozen of them, but they were all either Isabel or Joe. And I'm told by my mom, who still lives there, that they have not appeared in a long, long time. Last time she saw them was last August, so they've been gone for a year. That is a tragedy. I know they are. I don't know if they're endangered or they're protected or something around here. But yeah, would never. Those things are my spirit animal. But as a level 50 shaman, I can choose whatever spirit animal I want, really just depending on the day. I usually try to wait till there's a new moon phase before I pick a new spirit animal. I think my last one was armadillo. Anyway, move on, shall we? David 35445, how are you, sir? Good to see you. Says, been a while, dude. Yeah, where you been? By the way, I have a question for you about that net that you gave me. The net itself, the fabric of the net is starting to fray. It's still plenty serviceable, but when it does fray, can I replace it with the silicone, the really rubbery net? Can I do that, or will it not fit in the? How do I extol the virtues of self net replacement? Will I find a reward in the act of replacing the net? What should I do here, David? All right, so your question. By the way, I found a really nice net, and I found like brand new. And it had floated downstream, and I gave it to someone immediately before I left the river. Before I got in my car, I gave it to someone who did not have a net. And David, so you not only have supplied me with a net, you've made me give away a very nice net to someone who didn't have one. So that's 2 nets to newbies in your favor, David. All right, gotta ask your opinion on new gun legislation on your horizon. Here in Kanaktutak, we are facing a total ban on semi-autos. Really? So, I mean, I'm not doubting you. I'm just wondering why that's not news here. You would think that'd be kind of big news, a total ban on semi-autos. I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just a thing that happens in the world all the time, and we don't hear about it because of our media. So. Speaking of the media, All right, all right, all right. I'm going to stay on task on this. What is my opinion on new gun legislation? I don't have one. I don't have one because I no longer have opinions on political issues. That is the gribbly answer, and I'm going to stick to that. I have talked recently, and I don't want to repeat myself, but I've talked recently about how I can see several sides and nuances to the issue that I could not see in the past. This week, there's new news about a Senate report on the NRA that says that they were almost officially a Russian asset during 2015 and 2016, that they're super in bed with our adversaries, and the NRA can kiss my ass. Which is not to say that those who believe in an individual right to bear arms can kiss my ass. It's to say that particular organization can kiss my ass, which leads me to question some of the beliefs that I used to hold. And just in general, I think everybody who's watched more than a video or two from me knows that I have given up. I've laid down my sword and shield in terms of the kind of weapons that I still own, and I no longer feel that owning a centerfire assault rifle basically is my patriotic duty. So in the past, I would not have been able to maintain no opinion on this subject. I would have gotten involved. It's not even on my radar in terms of issues that affect my freedom. And so I don't think there will be an assault weapons ban. I really don't. I think that Trump, depending on how things go between now and the election, I think that Trump might make the mistake of stepping in it pretty good and trying to support an assault weapons ban, which will fail in the Senate. And that will cost him the election. So I'm excited about that. I think that the Trump base will only realize they were wrong if he supports an assault weapons ban. I think that's one of the few things. But even then, they might not. I mean, I bet Trump could literally come out in favor of abortion, and they wouldn't. They would find some way of dealing with that. It's just if assault weapons actually got banned under Trump, that would do it. That would do it. But I don't think that'll happen because it'll fail in the Senate. There's no way. There's no way to get an assault weapons ban through the Senate. Will there be red flag laws? Maybe. I don't know. I don't think there's going to be any substantive change in American gun law. And I'm okay with that. And if there is, I'm okay with that too. Over a pipe, ask GROOPZ. Given life's trials and tribulations, at what point in your life were you at your lowest, your worst, and how did you rise above it? And at what point in your life were you at your highest, and how were you able to maintain that afterwards, if at all? How do you define lowest? Like, from an objective perspective or from an internal perspective? Because from an objective perspective, I could probably mention one of the several times I've been unemployed. I could mention the long amount of time I spent underemployed. Also, I'm kind of underemployed right now. But the point being, if you look at it from like, at what point would an outsider say, oh, his life is going nowhere? That's pretty much like every point. Every point until I turned 30 or so. I think high school was a real low point. Everything has seemed uphill from high school. Although there were some moments in college that were pretty bad, where I just hated what I was doing and did not want to be a part of it. But I've been very lucky in that I've always had a stable support system. I've always had a spouse/significant other that was very supportive of me and very understanding of the things that I wanted to do. I could definitely say internally that my lowest point came when I basically had a nervous breakdown after my kid was in the hospital for 105 days. And it took a few minutes. It was like he got out in March, late March, and it wasn't until September that I lost it because I think that I was still going on adrenaline, basically. But yeah, that was internally. That was the moment where I have. That was definitely my lowest moment internally. Even though it looked like everything was great on the outside, new kid, business was going well, that sort of thing. Inside, it was not able to maintain function throughout the day. And since then, I guess things have been pretty much uphill, largely because of the YTPC, by the way. When was I at my highest? Professionally, I was at my highest in 2014. How did I rise above it? I don't think that I did. I think that I learned to accept it. I think that there's some circumstances that you can't rise above. You can get a better job. You can get out of a toxic relationship. You can whatever. When your kid is born with special needs, it's not like you ever you can't work hard enough to make those needs go away, and so you just kind of have to adjust to a new reality, and the trauma of him almost dying several times that caused the whole episode. I don't think that's gonna go away. I've dealt with it enough at this point that I can I'm just kind of used to it. Like if the trauma pokes its head up and says, "Hey, we should be upset about this," I'm like, I hear what you're saying, but no, we shouldn't. So I think that in each case, like low point in high school, how did I deal with that? I didn't. I just powered through, and I powered through in college, and I powered through several unemployments. But the real low point, I just accepted it. I was just like, okay, well, this is low as hell, and it sucks, and there's a lot to be sad about, but there's also a lot to be really grateful for. And we still have those moments as parents where something will come up that reminds us of the situation that we were in, and it is very hard to deal with, but we're not in this situation anymore. So at a certain point, you get frustrated with yourself for still being upset because we have it so much better than people who did lose their kid or people whose kids will never walk or talk. And that is, I've dealt with it, and I don't need to be feeling sorry for myself anymore is what I'm trying to say. I was at my highest in 2014 when I had just left a corporate situation that was quite a situation that we won't get into here. And I had a lot of money at the time, and I was making a lot of money at the time, and I was doing what I wanted, and it was fun, and it was just ridiculously uplifting to finally be like I actually felt successful. I think I am successful in what I do, but at that point I actually felt successful. I was like, yeah, I'm finally doing it. I'm a rock star. And that came to a halt because of the situation with our kids. So, yeah. So did I maintain any of that? Not really. I can look back at just monetarily, I can look back at the figures from that year and think, man, I really wish that had kept going. I really wish that business had stayed at that level and I could keep working, 70-hour weeks or whatever, and making a lot of money, but I can't because I gotta take care of my kid. And that would have been the same whether he was a preemie or not, But it's hard not to rope those two things together. I didn't maintain that very well. Let's see. At other times in my life, when I was at a peak, my first real exhibition in an art gallery, I feel like was one of those times, and I didn't maintain that either. I didn't do any of the after work that I was supposed to do. I was just so glad to have it done, and it was very successful, and I did not pursue any other opportunities after that. P.S. asks over a pipe, how is my impersonation of a GROOPZ answer? I mean, I think it was pretty spot on. Yeah, you got me. Maxaroni proposes a scenario. It's the end of civilization as we know it. A year has gone by, and people are still like packs of wolves roaming the city's woods and fields. Supplies are harder to acquire, and just surviving and killing is starting to wear one down. Here's the question. In the little downtime you had in your travels, what would you create for a trade that would not only be useful but comforting in a hostile environment? And then he goes on to talk about how his idea would be to make a hardwood tempered spoon for cleaning up poop. Perhaps I'm misreading that. I can think of a million other things I would rather use than a spoon, but whatever. Okay, so what would my answer be? What would I create for a trade that I guess would be some sort of luxury item, because like everything else would not, like, oh, I'm going to reload bullets. Well, that's obviously got a value in that situation. But something like making pipes might not, but would have an intangible value of comfort in a hostile world. I think if I could find a supply of corn, I think a corncob pipe situation would be pretty easy to set up. And I think that we would all need pipes in the end of the world. My second thought would be we would need therapists, and I'm not a good therapist. So what I would have to do is be like a therapist pimp, right? You'd have to be the therapist wrangler, and you'd say, come work for me. I'm going to start a therapy practice in the apocalypse. And if you don't come work with me and you find that you're practicing therapy outside of my cartel, I'm going to kill you. So get some therapy for that. I wouldn't kill the competing therapists. I would kill their patients, right? Like just kind of like a small percentage of their patients randomly so that no one ever really wants to go to them. Meanwhile, I would maintain really high standards for my own therapists, but behind the scenes, I would work them like slaves. I would make them go out and find a return on my investment. They would have to sell themselves. I put them on street corners with signs that say the doctor is in. I mean, because it's the end of the world. Everybody's going to need therapy. Why can't you go out and make me a bunch of gold bullion or 22 long rifle or whatever the currency is at that point? I'll be right with you. I'm just writing this down for my survival plan. And now we've come full circle with a question from Typing Piper. Ask GROOPZ, is it my imagination or is Trump being rational when it comes to Iran attacking Saudi Arabia? I do not talk about this stuff unless someone asks me, and I am sworn to answer any question that is asked to me. So that's why we're going to get into this. Trump is not rational. He might be acting in his self-interest, which for a second might seem rational. But he is not a rational person. I am not following the situation as closely as I should be because there's nothing I can do about it. Nor am I following the Kabuki Theater impeachment saga that is never going to amount to anything, but it gets the country riled up and super hateful. And whatever. Like I think that at this point, here's the thing about the impeachment thing. If we were going to stand on principle, we would have by now. So I don't really trust the Democrats to be sincerely seeking a remedy to this problem. I think they're trying to appease their base, and they're going to run through some hearings, and it's probably going to come up to nothing. Not that there isn't something there, but it's probably going to be. I mean, they could have impeached him 4 or 5 times by now. But they have chosen not to. So why now? Because it's the election? I don't know. It is kind of handy in getting Joe Biden out of the top spot, I think. And that makes sense to a lot of Democrats. It makes sense to me. But come on. I mean, it all ends at the Senate. They're never going to vote to convict Donald Trump on anything. So I mean that's always been the case, and it's not to say that I don't support impeachment. I do, but it's not going to happen. Like, I know it's not going to happen. So anyway, the Iran-Saudi Arabia situation, to the extent that I know anything about it, is awfully reminiscent of some gulfs in the past that were the scenes of rather exaggerated casus belli. Gulf of Tonkin, the last two Gulf Wars. I understand. No, I don't understand. Why are we allied with Saudi Arabia? Why are they our people? I have no idea, other than oil. And if we're now like independently producing all of our own oil or whatever, we're the largest exporter or whatever they claim. Why the hell do we need Saudi Arabia? There are a bunch of murdering barbarians over there. What can they possibly do for us? I don't know. It's not. I'm glad I'm not tasked with understanding that, because I don't. But given that we are supposedly their ally and protector, I guess I understand why we've sent troops over there. But we've sent a small amount of troops who are acting in a defensive role. So that tells me that those troops are bullet shields. Those troops are put there because if anybody fights their way through those troops, that will bring us into a larger conflict. So they're basically just like us putting our big nose in someone's face and daring them to punch it, which is sad for those troops. That would be a bad situation to be in. Is there rationale behind it? I don't. I mean, show me a war in which rationale was used. Like, there was an actual rational choice. Maybe the U.S. entering the war against Japan. Maybe. But I don't think, I'm not saying it was the wrong choice, but I don't think that you could argue that it was a rational choice, because it happened so fast and it was so emotionally fraught and charged that I don't think anyone did a lot of thinking. I think they rather rightfully said, you just tried to destroy our Navy. Screw you. We're going to kill you all. But then Germany declared war on us. We did not declare war against Germany. So that wasn't rational on Germany's part at all. Nothing in World War I was rational. Certainly nothing in Vietnam was rational. It sure as hell the wars that I've been alive for have not been rational. I don't think reason plays into this. Stay tuned on this channel. I've got my biggest work project of the year is going to be over this weekend, and I can goof off all the time like I do. You know, like I don't have anything to do. I'll just hang out and make videos. Talk about pipes. We'll shoot some targets. We'll go hunting. No, my work is going to slow down for the rest of the year, and then I'm going hunting. I'm going fishing. Delayed harvest waters open Tuesday, I think. Tuesday. We got tons of stuff to do together, and I'm super excited about it. Thank you, as always, for watching the Sunday Antisocial. I have been GROOPZ. You've been humanity. And I hope you don't have epilepsy or anything, because that would be really unfortunate. Sorry about that. Thank you for watching. Keep the ends out for the ties that bind.